Hello, I am Quinlan McGrath, and I'm here to tell you all about the tides. Now, talking about the tides, you might be wondering about this map here. Well, this is a map of the three main tidal types across the world, and you can see most of them are semi-digital, or semi-daily, or mixed semi-daily typed. There's also the dual typed tides. Now we'll get to those in just a second. Here is a diagram of the two most common types of tidal patterns, the semidiluvial and the mixed semidiluvial. Both have a high tide and a low tide twice a day, a high tide and both occurring about every 12 hours, or a high tide every 12 hours, a low tide every 12 hours. Right, so they have one type of tide every 6 hours or so. The difference is in a semidiluvial tidal pattern, the high tide and the flood current, right, the current that pushes water towards the shore, it's about the same size as the low tide, right, it's about as big as the low tide is small, and the flood current is about the same size as the EBB current, which is the current that pushes water away from the shore. While in a mixed semidiluvial tidal pattern, they still get those high tides twice a day, low tides twice a day, but the flood current or EBB current is much larger or more forceful than the other one at the corresponding time, as you can see here by the strength of the arrows. These two arrows are about the same thickness. This one is quite a bit bigger than this one. The last tidal pattern is the diurnal, in which the high tide and low tide happen only once a day. The size difference doesn't really matter, by the way. The size difference it is on your sheet is called the tidal range, and it's the difference between the high tide and low tide. Okay, now we know about the daily tides, like the high tide, low tide, and the tidal patterns. It's time to talk about the causes. Now, the cause of the tides is the moon's gravity. Right now, as the moon's here, you might think, there will be tides here and here, because the shape of the Earth means that the opposite side to the moon is also experiencing tides. But that's actually, in fact, not the case, as the tides are slightly ahead of the moon by about 50 minutes due to the rotation of the Earth. Right, so the moon's here, the tide would be here and about here. Right, and the tidal patterns and the different tidal patterns are caused by the fact that the Earth is slightly disformed, not as much as this, but a bit, and also the large continents restricting the flow of the tides. Now, next is the semi-monthly tides. I mean, they happen twice a month. The first one we're talking about is the spring tide, which is a higher tide than the high tide that we talked about earlier, and it is caused when the moon and sun are both pulling the water towards the land, right, both increasing that flood current, as you can see here, right, a larger flood current, because both of these forces are being applied. Now, you don't even need to go to view the water to see when this is happening, as it happens during a full moon and a new phase. So the other semi-monthly tide is the neap tide. It is lower than the low tide, as it has a stronger EBB current. It happens about 1 week after the spring tide, during the first and last quarter phases of the moon. It happens because you can see here, the moon is at a 9-degree angle to the sun, and it cancels out. Right now, the moon and sun they cancel out the forces of the tide, and it creates the very low neap tide. Well, that was the causes and types of tides. But don't take it from me. Just as the way the water rises and falls. Well, I'll see you again. And remember, no matter how high the tide, well, the island's still only tapped for 1 extra blue. Thank you for your time.